So I wanted to do a video tutorial real quick on making Lambert the Llama and how to do his fur around his face, because I'm using this Yarn Bee Cloud 9 yarn and it's really fuzzy and sometimes it's hard to work with, and I know a lot of people don't like working with this yarn. And while I've only actually crocheted with it a little bit in the face, we're making some fuzzy hair for him around his face with the yarn after making the actual head. So we're surface crocheting and chaining basically around. But I wanted to show you because this yarn can be just a little bit finicky to work with. It's not the easiest yarn to crochet with or work with. So I wanted to show you, just if you were having trouble using this type of yarn on Lambert, how to make these chain stitches. So I basically joined the fuzzy yarn after crocheting most of the head on the bottom. And my loops are just chain 5. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm using the same hook, a G hook, that I used to make the actual head. Now what you're going to do is you're going to find the next loose stitch, because we're only going to do about 3 or 4 rows of this white hair around his face. And so you're going to find the next loose stitch and you're just going to slip stitch into there. But this yarn can be really tricky to slip stitch with. It's fuzzy and it doesn't have a lot of play. So once you pull up that loop there so that you have 2 loops on your hook, you can do one of 2 things to make it easier. You can find your chain that you just made, your chain 5, and kind of pull down on that while you pull through. Just give it a little tug and then pull through. And that's one option, to pull down on that chain 5 loop. Or you can do, just kind of help it along if you have a fingernail. See, just chaining with it can be really tough. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And now I'm going to find that next, this is where I tied onto my start. And then find that next open space right there on the head. And we're just going to slip stitch into that next open space. And this is not perfect. Like, you don't have to perfectly slip stitch and because it's fuzzy, you're not going to see it. So just find an opening as best as you can to slip stitch into. And sorry, let me get that tail out of the way again. And so now we're going to slip stitch back into that next opening, and so now you got your two chains on your hook. And see how finicky it can be? Like, it's really tough. Like, it can be really a tough yarn to work with. So I've got my 2 stitches there on the loop. And now if you want to, you can just use your fingernail and just kind of guide that over and then slip pull up. And it also helps if you don't make your stitches and your chains quite as tight maybe as you're used to for your rest of your work. So really pull up some slack in those chains and make it like on the last one, just pull up a little slack and find the next open space on your head. And here I'm back around to the beginning. So I think I'm just going to finish off after this one. I'm going to go back around the same stitch that I was in and out a new hole right there. And remember, just keep it loose. So we're going to pull up a loop there and keep it kind of loose on there. And then just pull it over. Pull, and there you go. Now to finish this off, I'm just going to snip. Let me get my scissors over here. I'm just going to snip that thread. And I'm going to pull it all the way through. And these are my 2 tails. So I'm going to start and the finish. And then I'm going to tie them off. And once I tie those into a little knot there, don't pull this yarn too tight either, because I have found that if you pull this type of yarn too tight, you can break that, that little strand that kind of holds all the fuzzies together. And then once I get the head finished, I'll just weave this all the way through the head. But that's how I did Lambert's face, at least the white round. And for the eyes, I will post in the written pattern. Just take the eye out before doing the stitches around his eye and then pop it back in. And then, so don't put your backs in until you're done with the face. And these little stitches in the middle, some of these are chain 8 spaces. And then I've got a couple chain 7s, 6s and 7s right above his eye to kind of give him like a little fuzzy look around his eye. And then the rest of the loops around are just chain 5 spaces. But that's going to give our llama a little bit of fuzzy hair without actually having to crochet with the yarn so much. You can see I've just done a couple stitches here, a couple rows of crochet stitches in the actual face. So that's how we're going to do Lambert's hair. And I'm going to do the same thing. I've got another yarn in this color that I'm going to do some fuzzies around the rest of his head. And it's going to be the same method. I'm just going to chain anywhere from 5 to 8. And then just do slip stitches all the way around the head. And just do that little pull through method. And I think it'll work for you.